For the last 2 months, I've been trying to learn a lot of things. Started with web searches of the parishes of this diocese, of learning about just exactly what all is included when the Holy Father instructs me that I'm moving to St. Augustine. So I spent a lot of time trying to learn more about the details of this diocese, and as mentioned at the beginning, it is the first thing to notice this wonderful historic reality in the first place, that the Lord's presence was known here through the Eucharist. But then there's all kinds of other details about, well, what am I supposed to wear? How am I supposed to move around? In that decree, it said that some of the jobs that I had in the Diocese of Little Rock, but now I'm here and I literally have multiple hats that I have to wear and when to put them on and how to keep them on. So I have plenty to learn in these details. And then, of course, when I learn I'm moving to a new place, then I immediately think, well, where are the best coffee shops around? So many things that have to be learned as I come here. But there's a part of me that I've been learning these things, questioning. Well, why does all this matter? A part that asks, do I really need all these different kinds of clothes now? Why are there more rules about when to do certain things? Why does any of this matter? Fortunately, the Church has reasons. And it's a richness of our faith that when we start getting into the little details of why this and why that, it taps us into this rich tradition that reminds us that we are part of something bigger, something global, something that has an extensive history, way beyond even the coming of our Lord to these shores. The underlying reason is that symbols have power. Symbols are the physical expressions that point to unseen realities. All of these symbols, they can connect us because we are people of flesh and blood. We need the visual. We need our senses to be engaged so that we can come to know the God who is all-pervading, all around us in ways unseen and yet breaks into our lives. These symbols can help us. They help us worship so that we can come into closer contact with the God who made us the way that we are, the bodies that we have, who made us in such a way that these symbols point us to eternal realities. Human nature is such that without our symbols, we have a tendency to drift away from the reality that they represent. And so care with the little details of our faith, they matter for a deepening of what our faith is all about. Now, I don't intend in this homily to talk about all of the different symbols, all of the different ways that the things a new bishop receives point to these realities, but there is different light as I read the Gospels because of the role that Jesus was preparing them for, and this unbelievable honor, this humbling reality of becoming a part of that call of Jesus. But part of what has been more intense is not just that I was named to lead in the church in this diocese, not just the sense of leadership, but the way that you became a part of my life in a way that I can't even fully explain. A connection that is established and is reminded to me in many ways through the symbols that I have been paying attention to. It's hard for me to put into words exactly this connection and how intense it is very quickly, and yet today's readings, they provide help for me. In our first reading, we have Abraham. Abraham as a man standing in the breach. There was Abraham speaking to God on behalf of God's people. And Abraham pleading with them, saying, despite the fact that I am just a man, I dare to say, have mercy. Look for the goodness of your children. This is a role that Abraham has in today's gospel, a role that we would hear in other places in the Old Testament. Moses, always in the breach. Ezekiel, the prophet, called by God to stand in the breach. As your shepherd, I will stand in the breach. I will pray for you. I will plead to God for you. I will call on heavenly powers to protect you. This unseen reality that our symbols point to, they give rise to the fact that God's angels, God's powers are around us all the time. And so I bring them to your attention. I call on this power of God to protect you. But standing in the breach, I will call on you. Call on you to turn your hearts to the Lord, to bring you to the Lord, so that the Lord may receive you as his beloved children, the way in which he made you. Think of the symbol of the crozier in this light. As the one standing in the breach, at times I will need the staff to fend off the enemies, to protect the flock. At other times, I will need that staff to rein in the sheep, to stand in the breach, to come before God, to come before you. In every case, I will do this because the Lord sends me to care for you who are beloved to him. And so I have been reminded time and again, this is the work of God. And so my promise is to stand in that place of prayer, interceding for you, calling on God. Today's gospel also helps me understand my role in prayer. Luke's version of the Our Father that we are given today quickly is followed by Jesus pointing to the need for persistence in prayer, continuing the idea of the constant prayer that Archbishop Wednesday asked me to commit to. We hear the story of a man wanting to provide for his friends, and so he pleads and persistently asks until what is needed is given. The persistence of prayer. There is the expectation Jesus gives us in the gospel that asking and seeking and knocking will be answered. Today,